Ripple and XRP are America's best choice for blockchain infrastructure. XRP's role on a global scale will be incredible. People will be shocked. I wanted to highlight this post, giving a lot of detail about what's to come, a few things people are missing behind the scenes about XRP, and really give this post credit where it's due. X Finance Bull brings the heat here, and you gotta hear all of this. I have a ton of additional XRP information, but we have to get through the juice, the squeeze. Let's get into it. For all of those still wondering why XRP hasn't moved, what if Ripple already knows where this is going under all of those NDAs? XRP escrow suddenly starts to make sense. Let's walk through the scenarios and the long game Ripple is clearly playing. You need to read this thread. First, the context that haters are not connecting. Ripple has over 1,700 institutional contracts per the SEC court filings. Ripple manages 34 billion in escrow accounts. US banks and government agencies are watching regulatory clarity closely. Ripple is establishing Ripple Bank, applying for a Fed master account, meeting with Trump, Fed insiders, and finance players in DC. 4 major acquisitions: G Treasury, Rail, Palisade, and Hidden Road, now Ripple Prime. Also, the Treasurer of the United States keeps winding up in meetings about Ripple and XRP. I just thought that was kind of interesting that it gets involved. And so how much XRP would US infrastructure actually need? Let's break this down scenario by scenario. Scenario A, XRP as liquidity rail, domestic plus cross-border. Purpose: replace SWIFT friction, improve USD rail velocity. Required 5 to 10 billion XRP in high frequency liquidity rotation. No need to own, just throughput for speed plus messaging and settlement. Scenario B, US government allocation for digital settlement. Use cases: XRP as a neutral bridge asset or an SDR unit. Fed, Treasury, IMF style bodies use XRP for modernized clearance. Required 10B, 15B, or 10 to 15 billion XRP for tokenized T-bill backstops, agency corridors, and XRP functions like plumbing. Invisible but essential. Scenario C, institutional rollout, banks plus governments and clearers. Though if those 1,700 contracts cover tier 1 banks, clearinghouses, sci-fi's, systemically important financial institutions, government flow desks, required 20 to 25 billion XRP, leaving Ripple with almost no discretionary supply after allocations. This explains why most of the extra XRP has not hit the market. So what about legal clarification? The waiting is almost over. XRP now has legal classification in the US as of August 2025 after the Ripple v. SEC case was fully resolved. Retail sales: XRP is not a security on public exchanges. Institutional contracts were ruled securities only due to contract terms, not the asset itself. Ripple sees this model under the settlement agreement. Commodity status: XRP is now classified as a commodity by the CFTC like Bitcoin and Ethereum. The Clarity Act will codify XRP's treatment across federal agencies and enable full-scale institutional use. Until that passes, Ripple cannot touch escrow and banks can't integrate XRP into regulated systems. This is the switch US institutions are waiting for. And it talks about what does the clarity do? Delivers real regulatory clarity, protects consumers, fuels US innovation, reinforces American leadership in global finance. 6, Ripple built inside America because of this. Why didn't they leave the US? They dug in. Why? Because if XRP is cleared here, it's cleared everywhere that matters. This is why Ripple setting up a US bank, seeking a master account access, and aligning with Treasury level utility rails. I've also seen some insiders believe that Ripple could be looking to open up a bank, let's say in Japan or the EU or the UK. I wouldn't bet against Ripple here. If they can do it here in America, they can do it anywhere on the planet. And I think they have the connections. If they want to go down that route, they could. Ripple could turn into something like an IMF eventually here. If XRP use case really lives up to what we think it can to, think of how much money Ripple is actually going to have. They could be a lender of last resorts for countries, governments all around the world. Ripple made in America can refer to the San Francisco-based fintech company Ripple Labs, building on the XRP ledger for global payments, or Ripple Foods. And so just talking about Ripple fintech here, North American Ps, US manufacturing. Ripple Labs is known for XRP and recent acquisitions like G Treasury, Oh, Ripple Foods. Why? I don't understand why you included. I don't know why you included that, but all good. Let's keep going. XRP's role is function. Shrink settlement time from days to seconds. Free trillions in trapped capital. Modernize T-bill clearance and repo flows. Reduce USD volatility and cross-border flow. Unlock faster capital markets with programmable settlement. This is wealth by design liquidity. A final reflection. If the 1700 contracts pre-allocations, the price is the last domino. XRP is already modeled into the future financial stack. The escrow is not for sale. It's already spoken for. The bottleneck is clarity, not demand. The moment legal classification hits, flows will turn on. Now, few things here, just to give you some additional context and information. When we are talking about the escrow, I've went back and looked at all of this, but in 2024, they basically unlocked $1 billion, relocked 800 million, give or take a few months. This year, we've been unlocking $1 billion, relocking about 700 million. There was 1 month that we only relocked about 560 million, but a significant portion still being relocked. Now, next year, I probably, if we follow the trend here, they're probably going to unleash about 400 million and relock 600 million. So David Schwartz did say that some of that escrow or those wallets could be already purchased or anybody could buy them. So you start to wonder, have governments around the world or financial institutions such as the BlackRocks and JP Morgans of the world, have they already got their hands on XRP without us knowing? That could be in that information. Now, the way we find out here is if the Clarity Act passes in its current form, Ripple could only own 20 billion total XRP, including the leaders at the company. So that could be a pretty big issue. They would have to offload about 20 billion XRP. Where is that going to go? Now, there's a deal to be made there with Ripple and maybe the US government or other governments around the world if that XRP is not already spoken for. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that and keeping you updated. So what happens when the price with all this goes live? Of course, price doesn't rise on news. It rises on flow. Once XRP is cleared legally, plus integrated into bank-grade systems, liquidity needs explode, escrow becomes allocated, not sold, and demand outpaces liquidity supply. Whew, that was spicy. All right, here's an interview. Ripple exec shares a Solana stage with an XRP critic. We want XRP everywhere. All right, I'm not going to read all of the jibber jabber. Let's just play a little bit of this.
I'm Luke Judges. I lead the partner success team for RippleX. RippleX is a specific business unit inside Ripple Labs, the wider organization, that's supportive of the XRP ledger, the open source public blockchain, and XRP, the native digital asset of that chain. Pleasure to share the stage with you, man.
Yeah, man, it's really amazing to have you here. So we honestly broke the internet in the last week. I think some of the announcements were #1 on all of Twitter, basically for engagement. What did we announce? Talk about it.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, one, congratulations. That in terms of engagement is insane. And I think it's a testament to the XRP community, the Solana community, two major crypto ecosystems. I think today I want to clarify that kind of Ripple Labs and RippleX isn't announcing anything ourselves, but we're here to support two prominent ecosystem members. So Hex Trust and Layer Zero have announced that they're issuing XRP and wrapped XRP onto the Solana blockchain. So I'm super excited about the opportunities that brings up, and yeah, pleasure to announce.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this, but I think we have a lot more in common than most people kind of think. I think we have really deep storylines and lore and history in different ways. And so the more I got to know about the XRP community and Ripple itself as well, the more excited I got about trying to figure out a way to bring the asset to Solana where it can be used in DeFi and lending markets and earn yield and all that kind of stuff. Can you talk about what was exciting about it from Ripple's perspective?
For sure. So I think there's three things that I think make the Solana ecosystem an exciting place to launch XRP: new users, new demand, and market depth. So in terms of users, I think you've got a number of tier 1 wallets such as Phantom that have, say, 20 million active wallets that can now access and use XRP. New demand, you've got a number of financial primitives and actually kind of more bespoke applications such as prediction markets, perps, dexes, that we can now get XRP kind of deeply embedded in. And I think in terms of market depth, there's a number of kind of Solana native tokens that we can pair XRP with, which I think will be very complementary to XRP, the digital asset. The way I've been thinking about this is if you think of digital assets as a similar way to currencies, the US dollar would not be the global reserve currency if you could only buy it in America and the United States. And so I think it's very interesting if we distribute XRP into other blockchains and you think of them as other countries. I think that's a very interesting value proposition for us. And I think Solana is a perfect ecosystem to start.
Yeah, and while we have you here, is there anything about Solana specifically? I know you have some history in the ecosystem, but is there a reason why maybe Solana was near the top of the list for working on this interoperability?
Yeah, I think it's those two things in terms of active wallet account. I think, look, there's millions of XRP holders across the globe. They are vocal, and I think that kind of demographic of people matched with the extreme number of Solana developers that are interested in building utility, I think that can be a pretty formidable force if both of those things are combined.
Really quickly, if there was an ecosystem that we wanted to be integrated with, I would pick Solana over what BNB. Or, we're already interconnected with Ethereum. We need the Solana integration. There's a lot of really smart people building on Solana. We want them to be able to bring that talent to the XRP ledger. And this is a way to kind of commingle those two things together. We could be kind of maxi this and maxi that. I think collaboration, integration, bringing this all together is what we need at the end of all of this. So good time to do it. Let's get it out. This is actually really big news when you think about it. There are so many Solana users out there that may possibly be looking at XRP. Who knows, right? We want to bring those people to our side, and maybe there's going to be some XRP people that are like, hey, we'll take it. We'll maybe get a position in Solana too. That's all totally up to you. I think if you had to look at just a few assets, Solana would definitely be in the top 3 or 4 tokens that I would tell you. XRP, obviously, Solana, Ethereum, Chainlink. I could list another 10 tokens, and if I didn't say the token you love and you hold most, don't worry about it. But I'm saying, like, this is a really big deal.
So yeah, super excited to see what will come out. And actually, I really encourage the Solana developers here today to build utility for XRP on Solana. I think that's a pretty interesting, and it's something that traditional finance is not ever going to do, 100%. Right? Like, that interoperability doesn't work.
So this isn't it for what you guys are doing here. Can you talk about what's coming?
Yeah, sure. So look, the XRP ledger as a technology stack has been an island for about a decade. We are now heavily leaning into interoperability. So I think there's like a number of different ways where XRP will move across a variety of crypto ecosystems via interoperability partners. You've seen probably publicly that we partnered with Wormhole, Axelar, Layer Zero, all kind of interoperating with the XRP ledger or bringing XRP to other ecosystems. And I think that's only going to continue. We want to see XRP available everywhere to everyone.
Yeah, awesome.
And okay, good to start with Solana as well, and our favorite mid-tier manager, for sure.
Thanks for coming, Luke.
Oh, man, so that was good. Quick chat, though. Really quick chat. Okay, so we did get some new news with the OCC giving Ripple their banking license. While CT waits for a pump, XRP is quietly being wired into the U.S. financial plumbing. OCC guidance. Banks can settle crypto payments today. Ripple applying for a national bank charter. Fed master account request pending. ISO 20022 plug and play payment rails. Here's the part most retail misses. Price doesn't move while plumbing is being installed. It moves when volume hits the rails. TradeFi builds in silence, then deploys in size. It's a working path for regulated stablecoins, RLUSD, corporate treasuries, and cross-border infrastructure to move value without market-facing exposure. That's how Swift won. That's how Visa scaled. XRP is following that same pattern. Back end first, price later. This isn't a moonshot narrative. It's settlement infrastructure being wired into traditional financial systems in real time. When banks can settle in crypto without holding crypto, XRP is the asset that becomes the invisible infrastructure. Are you watching the candles or are you watching the rails? This is why I don't care about XRP's price day to day. I don't look at it. I don't wake up and I don't go, what is the XRP price? Because I know that one day I will wake up and I will have 100 text messages from people and I will know something big happened. That's what I'm waiting for some people to text me and say, Sensei, I love you. You were right. Let me take you on a vacation anywhere in the world. Like, I can't wait for some of my friends to send me that. But that's what I think, people, it's not healthy to look at the price every day. If you're a long-term holder of something and you're not day trading it, there's no reason to look at the price every day. That is my personal feeling. And I can tell you that my emotional health and my health has been better since I stopped looking at prices day to day. XRP is the banking system, right? Liquidity, payments, real time, XRP, and then banking infrastructure, Ripple, RLUSD. Let's go. All right. And then we have a little bit of information here from Chad. With just a few $1 billion coordinated at the same time, the entire XRP liquid trading supply could be wiped out in a matter of hours. Could you imagine waking up and there's just no more supply? You can't buy XRP anymore. Whoa, almost slipped there. It's gone. Didn't slip, almost slipped. I know sometimes parents are listening, kids in the car. I'm always trying to watch my language, but I appreciate that. And we actually have some fans of the channel that are, I think the youngest fan that I've ever heard that watches my content is 7 years old. So big shout out to you. You are probably the coolest kid in your entire school, knowing about XRP and being a follower here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Exchange determines the price. Tradable liquidity supply. Say goodbye. The amount of XRP tradable on exchanges consistently changes, but generally around 2 to 5 billion XRP, about 4 to 10% of the total supply is held on major exchanges like Binance, Kraken, and Coinbase, with the largest portion on Binance reflecting market activity, user withdrawals, and self-custody and potential selling. But the actual liquid supply depends on user intent. It talks about exchange holdings. Data from mid-2024 suggests 2.1 to 2.5 billion XRP on exchanges, while other estimates place it around 4.9 billion. And what we're seeing is XRP supply being diminished on exchanges over the last 6 to 12 months, especially over the last few months. $142 billion assets under management. WisdomTree moves closer to launching a spot XRP ETF. WisdomTree is one of the large players in the XRP ETF race with the firm-wide assets under management. And then let me just see here. WisdomTree reported record global assets under management about $139 to $141 billion as of late 2025. By contrast, it's the entire universe of spot XRP ETF in the US. It's around $1 billion in combined assets under management across all of these different companies. Bitwise, 21 shares, Canary, Franklin Templeton, and others, 21 shares. 21 shares there. Individual XRP ETFs from the issuers are mostly in the low hundreds of millions of dollars or less, meaning that each sponsor current XRP footprint is tiny relative to WisdomTree's balance. It says WisdomTree were to allocate 0.5 or 1% of its total assets under management exposure to model portfolios, advisor platforms, and cross-selling, that would equate to roughly 0.7 to $1.4 billion in potential XRP demand. The cool thing is we are entering a new phase where regulation is upon us, and financial advisors are starting to advise their clients that they need to have crypto in their portfolio. It starts with 1%, and then it moves to 2 or 5 or 10 or 20. There are going to be some people that end up having crypto as 50 or 80 or even 100% of their portfolios. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do, but I'm saying that there are people who are fit more in the crypto realm than they do the traditional space. And financial institutions understand that they need to be telling their customers how important this crypto innovation is, because once you get regulation, once you get the tokenization of $100 trillion for the DTCC and other markets start to follow, where do you think this takes us on price on all of these assets? Everybody wants to win at the end of the day. You have the information to win. You just need the patience to make that dream come true. Now, there's a few other things happening here with Hex 2026 roadmap, but I think I will save this for another day, guys. Thank you for being here. If you got value, please like, share, leave a comment down below. Thank you for your time. Have a good week ahead. I'm recording this on a Sunday. It might come out today or it might come out Monday, but I really appreciate you. Aloha.